October 1962. The world smiled, unaware it stood on the brink of annihilation. For 13 days, the fate of humanity would hang by a thread. A time of innocence, a time of unprecedented American prosperity. Families thrived, businesses boomed, and the future seemed limitless. The threat of nuclear war felt distant, almost unreal. Yet, unseen and unsuspected by most, the world was about to stumble onto the precipice of self-destruction. The discovery of Soviet nuclear missiles just 90 miles from the American coastline shattered the illusion of safety. President John F. Kennedy now faced an impossible dilemma. Allow the Soviets to establish a nuclear beachhead in the Western Hemisphere, forever holding the United States hostage, or risk a full-scale war by invading Cuba. Kennedy drew a red line, warning the Soviets in a televised address. Instead of invasion, Kennedy chose a third path, a naval blockade, though he called it a quarantine to avoid the language of war. American warships formed a ring around Cuba, halting Soviet vessels in open waters. The message was clear: turn back or face the consequences. The days that followed were a crucible of tension. The world watched, paralyzed with fear, as the United States and the Soviet Union engaged in a dangerous game of brinkmanship. The line between peace and annihilation blurred with each passing hour. Deep beneath the waves, a single Soviet submarine, B-59, became a catalyst for disaster. Cut off from communication with Moscow and believing that a state of war already existed, Captain Valentin Savitsky, along with Officer Ivan Maslenikov, prepared to unleash a nuclear torpedo. Arkhipov argued fiercely against the launch, demanding proof of war. His refusal, overruling two others, averted catastrophe. Then, tragedy struck once more. On October 27th, dubbed Black Saturday, an American U-2 spy plane piloted by Major Rudolph Anderson was shot down over Cuba by a Soviet SAM missile. The world reeled. The downing of the U-2 enraged Pentagon hawks. Retaliate now, they urged. Kennedy hesitated, knowing the next move could end the world. Against all odds, diplomacy prevailed. Behind closed doors, Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev reached a secret agreement. In secret, Kennedy agreed to withdraw U.S. missiles from Turkey. The concession kept quiet to save face. Khrushchev, in turn, ordered the Soviet missiles removed from Cuba. On October 28th, Khrushchev announced the withdrawal of Soviet missiles from Cuba. Kennedy, in turn, pledged not to invade the island nation. The crisis was over. The world had stepped back from the brink. Yet, the question lingered. What if, in a moment of desperation, one side had chosen a different path? Imagine a world where Kennedy, pressured by his advisors and the public, decided to invade Cuba. The plan was set. A full-scale military operation to overthrow Fidel Castro and dismantle the Soviet missile sites by force. Soviet ships, ordered to break the blockade, exchanged fire with U.S. destroyers. A submarine, depth-charged and panicked, mistook the chaos for war. American forces landed on Cuban soil under the command of Operation Scabbards. A strike meant to be swift, decisive, and final. A Soviet general, acting on standing orders, approved short-range nuclear strikes. The first hit Guantanamo, the second, the invasion force. Within hours, the world was plunged into a nuclear inferno. Moscow, Washington, New York, and Leningrad were reduced to ash. Billions perished in the initial blasts and the ensuing firestorms. Those who survived faced a world transformed into a radioactive wasteland, ravaged by disease, famine, and despair. The long nuclear winter had begun. In the aftermath, survivors scoured dead fields for canned food, while others burned books for warmth. Engineers salvaged parts from the wreckage of the old world, desperate to restore power and clean water. Teachers gathered children in the remnants of libraries, determined to pass on what knowledge remained. But the scars of the war ran deep. Disease spread through the weakened population. The survivors faced not only the physical challenges of their new reality, but also the psychological toll of loss and despair. Still, they endured. This is what could have happened. This is the world that might have been had the fragile peace of October 1962 not held. This is the future we avoided. But in our world of growing tensions, the lesson remains. Only dialogue can cut the thread before it snaps.